Hello, everyone, and welcome to Cosmic Conversations on the Conscious Awakening Network. I'm your host, Sheila Seppi, and I want to welcome you tonight to this episode. I am super excited for our guest, which I'll tell you all about in a few moments. But I also want to remind you to please visit your Android and your Apple phone store. Go ahead, download our app. That way you can take us with you wherever you go, and you never have to worry about missing an episode or a canned event. Now, speaking of canned events, I really want to tell you guys something exciting because this Saturday we are having the Ascension TV launch party and we want you there. So go to our website, consciousawakeningnetwork.org, sign up. It's free all day Saturday, starting at 10 o'clock until about 6. We have speakers, we have gifts, we have all kinds of cool things that's going to be happening throughout the day, and we would love to have you there. Now, another exciting announcement is by popular demand, the Light Language Conference is now going to be live and online on the Conscious Awakening Network. So visit the site, go to the event. I'm going to be speaking. Lots of other people are going to be speaking. So instead of it being in Aravada, it's going to be online. So check it out. It's still May the 30th through June the 1st. And you can also visit lightlanguageconference.com, or again, go to our website, check it out under the event section. Now, speaking of event sections, we also have a lot of great events coming up. On May 17th, we have Barbara Lamb, Hidden Truths of Extraterrestrials, Crop Circles, Hybrids, and Bigfoot. So that's going to start at 10 a.m. Pacific time. So check that out, sign up, and join us. It's going to be phenomenal. We also have Maureen St. Germain. She's going to be offering a workshop, Fast Track Merkaba. That's going to be May 24th at 10 a.m. And then on on June the 7th at 10 a.m., we have Messages from the Stars. And this is Unlocking Humanity's Galactic History. So again, check us out, consciousawakeningnetwork.org. Go to our event section. Now, what's not up on our event section is another huge event that's coming up May the 9th through the 11th, and that is the New Living Expo. So I'm going to be speaking on May the 11th at 11. I would love, love, love to meet you in person. So come on down and check out the conference. Again, I'm going to be speaking May the 11th at 11. So you can go to newlivingexpo.com to get your tickets. Now, to our episode. So this month, all month long, I've been blessed to have Dr. Lisa Thompson as my co-host. Now, Lisa is an internationally recognized best-selling author. She's a speaker, a galactic ambassador. She's a channeler, an intuitive. She is an intuitive transformational coach who brings the worlds of science and spirituality together. She's also a lifelong experiencer. So check her out on her website, LisaJThompson.com, and you can also find her on the Big Island UFOtours.com. Now, she has been a phenomenal co-host this month, and she has invited some spectacular guests. And tonight, she has invited another spectacular guest. You all know and love him, Tony Ghazi. Now, he's going to talk to us tonight about the sound of creation, unlocking your true voice, reawakening that primal power of your voice, and the breakthrough, the barriers of suppression. So now many of us have been conditioned to silence our own voices. So whether through societal expectations, trauma, or self-doubt, this conversation is designed to help you release these blocks, reclaim your authentic expression, and channel the creative force within you. So it is my honor and my privilege to bring all of you spectacular folks up right here with me. Thank you so much for being here. Hello, hello, hello.
Tony, you're muted, but so
Yeah.
happy to have you here.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Shelley. It's an absolute pleasure and an honor as always. It's always exciting to talk about who we are as multidimensional beings. And yeah, I mean, do you have any questions? I mean, I can start wherever. How
Well,
does
Sheila, I have one just for
Sure.
anyone that's new to you, Tony. If you can just share just a little bit about how you came to actually channel the Mantis Collective. Because the Mantis are one of my favorite groups of
Mhm.
all
Thank you.
time.
Thank
And
you, thank
so
you, thank
anyway,
you.
yeah, share that,
Thank
please.
you, love. So I'm Lebanese by origin. I was born in Lebanon, and I moved to the U.S. when I was 15 years old. And I grew up as Greek Orthodox, so Christianity was like my thing my whole life, until I hit 40 years old, which was 5 years ago, like when COVID came. And I literally awakened when COVID came. Knew nothing about channeling, nothing about UFOs, let alone insectoid beings or Pleiadians or Andromedans or all these other fabulous beings. And in fact, I was deathly terrified of insects. Like anything that's crawly, I would literally run the other direction screaming. Bees, wasps, I mean, you name them, anything that looks cockroach, anything that looks very with so many legged insects. I would be absolutely terrified up until I was 40 years old. When I awakened to the world of channeling through one TV show called The Interview with Extra Dimensionals with Ruben Langdon, it opened my eyes about what channeling is, and I was obsessed for 2 months, like really watching his show because I'm understanding the English of what's being said, like English words, but no context of what it means. How does that fit with my paradigm, which is I'm male, I'm Christian, I'm Lebanese, I'm American, blah blah blah. The 3D world, being so asleep to the more, because I thought the world was what I thought it was before, which is I'm a human, I live on this earth, there's nothing beyond this, et cetera, the old paradigm. And then throughout that first year of COVID, when you watch these shows, there's all these words, hypnotherapy and I don't know what else, and consciousness and this and that. And you begin to delve into what all this stuff means. And I had one past life regression, my first past life regression, where you get hypnotized to remember past lives, future lives, whatever. I didn't know what was gonna happen really. I didn't even know if I could get hypnotized even. Literally, the first image that came through is of a praying mantis head, literally in my mind. It was a flash of an image, but the cool part of that, within that flash, which was like it came and left, within it, I was in that for a long time, for infinity. So it was the first time I began to experience my world from a different way. That wow, I can experience a quick flash, which is a microsecond, but yet I was in it for a long time. Like, how is that possible? The next image was of these like long-bodied silhouettes about 30, 40 feet high, I don't know, like very tall, light beings. So like you have a head and like you have an arm and like the arms were down and like shoulders, but all made of light. It had no eyes and it had no features like apart from the head, like the shoulders and the arms and legs. But and it was a flash, like flash and it left. But like within it, I was in it like for a long time. And I heard, I guess telepathically, that we are coming to you in this way because your like physical mind, the brain, it's able to comprehend like a human silhouette. It's able to comprehend what the idea of light is because if we come as we are, as we exist, your mind literally will not be able to understand what it sees, and it will be like the old television set where you have static, like like your mind will be not able to comprehend what it's seeing, and it wouldn't make sense, and it would just be like jarring for the mind, I guess. But they said, as you witness in that flash, which was a quick microsecond, but then I was in it like for a long time. They said we will, or like your mind will like begin to acclimate to our frequency and vibration, and like little by little, as we introduce more to you and you accept us more and like we interact, you'll begin to understand who we are, how we live, what we are, how we expand, etc., etc. That's the second image. And the third and the last image was of this heart, literally that was sliced up. Like, do you know the old school egg slicer with like with the wires where you put the egg and you like push down and it's like slices the egg into perfect slices? It was a heart like that, sliced into infinite slices. Within each slice, again, that was a flash, quick and left, but yet I was in it like somehow for a long time. within each slice, there was all these facets that were clear. It was the most clearest crystal you can ever comprehend in your mind. And there was an intelligence about it. It's hard to describe. It's like whatever clearest crystal you've seen on Earth, you multiply that by infinity. It was just that clear, but in terms of like intelligence. And like within all these facets or all of these slices of the heart that were all faceted into that infinite, like that long corridor, I guess, or that long hallway that seemed to be a hallway, there was a grain of light. Literally, when I say a grain, it was a speck. And again, there was like a telepathic like communication that says, we or you, like us, all of us, like, as consciousness, we don't need to show up as this big flame to remind ourselves that we're powerful. All we need, and this is how powerful we are, all we need is a grain, like a very tiny speck of who we are. And that tiny speck reflected light off the one facet to the next, to the next, to the next, into these infinite heart-like slices, creating a Merkaba of light. And in that moment, I literally could embody and feel and understand what unconditional love is, what pure light of creation is. And in that moment, I viscerally knew I connect with the mantis beings. I am part of them. They are part of me, blah, blah, blah. All these expressions of the limitation. And I literally ran out and I had like 3 or 4 like past lives, like during the whole session. But when the session was over, I ran out of there, like literally, I'm like, I know where I come from. I know where I emanate from. Of course, that's my old self, not understanding what I like know now, but it was my catalyst to literally run into this new world, where I embody and receive this new version of me that had clarity of a version of myself where I what I connect with. So I'm a realtor and I sell real estate, and I've been doing that for 12, 14 years or whatever. So for a person who's well known in our community, who sells a lot in the corporate world, for me to walk out into the public and I will describe my car like, in 1 second, but this is how visceral my experience was, that I ran out in public professing to the world, I talk to aliens and specifically to insectoid beings. So for a person who's in the 3D world, like selling real estate, he knows a lot of people, whatever, they know who I am. For me to step out now and say, well, I talk to aliens, I see UFOs, and specifically mantis beings, like either I must be insane and put me in some mental mental institution, with no joke about that. But like what happened to me was so visceral. I could not escape to be that version and to embody fully, knowing myself like so well, to the point I displayed on the back of my car. So again, I'm a realtor. I never have displayed a decal on the back of my car. I sell real estate. I can help you buy a house or sell a house, ever. My car is empty. It's just a car. But this time, like when I awaken to that version of me, literally there's like 4 lines that says, the Antarian heart, I speak to extra like dimensional beings. I have praying mantises, Bigfoot, I have aliens, I have spaceship, and my website, and I say that I'm a spiritual guide. Driving around Washington, D.C. and Maryland and Virginia with my clients, showing them houses, the first thing they see is that, and the first dialogue we have is that. So, and I'm just giving you like the contrast just for you to understand that, like for me to get to a space to profess that I do that and to put a decal, a large advertisement on the back of my car as that, it was that visceral of an experience that no one on earth could shake me away. Even if Source comes down and says, well, I played a trick on you like during that past life regression, I'm like, okay, thanks Source, I know exactly who I am. That's how real it was to me. And my life unfolds into this magical world of becoming more of who I am. And I don't know everything about who I am. I have insecurities, I have traumas. I was molested when I was a child. I grew up in the Lebanese war. There's a lot of traumas that I repressed. I've always stuttered, and it has been getting better, but for the first 25, 30 years of my life, I stuttered a lot, especially school was traumatic. I actually lost the job because I could not speak, and I could not get the job because I went into this huge tunnel vision space where I felt so embarrassed and like I had a panic attack because I just wouldn't I just couldn't speak. I would go, and I stuttered a lot at school, and I wouldn't speak, and I muffled myself, etc., etc. And I'm mentioning that just to help the world know that, look, we're all of it, right? It's not like all of a sudden I'm like awakened now than like before, and then I left that world. No, we're all these multidimensional aspects. I get to experience, we all get to experience all the versions of who we are, whether it's the spiritual, like the corporate, like the stuttering, the being molested, the like living through the war, which I'm uncovering a lot of memories that was repressed for the longest time. I'm still human. Nothing changed apart from the fact I now realize I have access to more, and all that access is really within me. It's not like something I need to learn. I'm just becoming more aware of what's always been within me, but I was never told it is within me, right? What else? Is that good enough? Just quickly as a quick. Oh, one last thing. Sorry. The reason like that I mentioned the act of stuttering. So as I speak, I use the word alike, and I use the word like a lot, like the word like, because it helps me like bridge. Because if I don't, like the word wouldn't come out, I go, So if you hear ums a lot, and if you hear like a lot, like to you may not like realize I'm stuttering. To me, I know I'm using specifically those things to help me bridge. But the reason that I'm making that a point is when I began channeling for the first time, it's the first time in 41 years that I didn't stutter. When I channel, I go into pure flow, pure speech, and that's another fuel, like for me, that just catalyzed me into like knowing what just happened, the act of channeling, whatever it's described, that experience when I go into the channeling mode, the fact that I'm able to speak freely, actually the only time I can speak freely is when, although now I'm not stuttering much, is through the channel state drove me to just dig deeper into what channeling is, and it just became kind of my safe space in a way. I mean, listen, I went to speech therapist, I tried breathing, this and that, meditation, working with the mind, and I've always stuttered, like always. And like my brother really stutters bad, my dad stutters, and also my uncle on my dad's side stutter. And here comes the umming, because helps me like bridge. But when I channel, I don't. So to me, that was like freedom. And I'll stop here. So that's what I do. So I channel the praying mantis beings. They're of unconditional love and when I say unconditional love, it's beyond the intellect. They clearly said humanity does not comprehend what unconditional love is. We have visions and actions and expressions of what unconditional love looks like, but we do not embody purely what unconditional love is. But we're all learning, we're all expanding. And I think I'll stop here. I'm
Okay,
happy to
well,
speak more.
I know that you're going to channel for us, and I'm extremely excited about that. But I did want to ask a couple questions. So, can you, I know that you've told us a little bit about the mantis beings and, how I'm going to call it their grand entrance into your life. But once you were able to embody that energy, how did that shift you? How did that change? And, how did that open you up?
I mean, look, when I get in the channeled state and like when I channel for clients, like oftentimes, I tell them, and like my modality of channeling, because you have a lot of channelers out there that like sit, like for example, like for an hour and they connect with their beings and they begin to deliver all kinds of messages. Up to this point, my path has been all my knowledge that I received, all of the wisdom and expressions of creation and expansion of my own consciousness truly came through all of the channel sessions that I co-created, like with clients on stage, et cetera, et cetera. That was my pathway to understand them more. And when I say, when I'm in that state, I experience things beyond the mind. Like if you say the ego like steps aside, sure, that's one way of expressing it. But what they like deliver through words is a minuscule aspect of what I'm experiencing as energy that no way on earth our vocabulary in this reality can describe what it is. So it becomes an embodiment within my field of these grander concepts that oftentimes I don't even know how to begin to explain. I just don't know how to explain. There's not enough words, or there's not a word for what I just experienced. But also energetically, there is like an exchange. So although like when I'm channeling like for you and you're hearing those words as limited as they are, there's an energy exchange between us because we're all energy beings and we're tethered to each other. There is no separation. I'm not separate than you. We experience the idea of separation because we placed a code within our mind that we're separate, a lens saying we're separate, so we experience like this separation. But in reality, we're all a grid of energies connected to each other. So beyond the words, there's a lot of energies like that is being experienced. And I mean, like when I like fell into this new version and received it like fully and begin to embody it, walking out in the world, like saying I'm this and that, the world opened up, like my vision opened up. I had spaceships and I live in Washington, D.C., like not on the outskirts, in the city. I had these light ships like appear over my house. I have videos after videos after videos on my iPhone and on my like night vision camera of these massive orbs under the clouds, like super multicolored, a V-shaped ship, all these like fast moving ships. No way on earth a plane could go like that. And again, this is at night and super high in the sky and like oftentimes like below like the clouds. In like my house, I like begin called like to do these videos like with an iPhone, like with the flash on when it's dark, and I just get called to begin like filming, and orbs and fairies, I swear to God, I can show you like videos. Fairies would come up, and like there's this one fairy like where I said, I'm like, guys, you guys are going too fast. Our technology, our phones cannot like grab you, these fast like moving orbs. All of a sudden this fairy comes, literally goes la 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 la, and comes close and goes away. Crazy stuff like that began like appearing, not appearing, because my perception has changed, because now in my own belief system, my world isn't what I was taught it is. Now it's beyond. Now I talk to beings or whatever, and I begin to perceive them more. So crazy stuff like that begins to really unsolidify what was once a solid world. It becomes a very malleable, very etheric, very ever-changing world of your own creation. But my new, most recent, like found truth within myself is like for a while, for the past like 3 years, and look, I began channeling publicly about a year and a half ago, and my transition has been quite explosive. I've been gone traveling. I had over like 30 trips the past year and a half, been on like so many stages. You know, I'm going to Bali next month, I'm going to Japan, and then back to Sedona, and you know, all over the US and like the world now internationally. As I was awakening, I had the intention and the drive to connect to more beings and to connect to out there and what's more beyond, 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 beyond. I've fallen like recently in the past month and a half into a newfound truth that although oftentimes we seek the outside, we seek the more because we've been in like such a box that we were told this is our world, that when we like realize there's more beyond the box, we're so curious and interested to break that box and experience the more. Now I've fallen back into, because when you're in the more, when you begin to realize you're the infinite beyond the mind, beyond like the intellect, you experience what it is, and all it takes is one or two experiences to realize you're all of it. And yes, I can experience the more and the many facets of who I am, and I will have that experience. But the more you fall into that world of the unlimited, you begin to realize, wow, I actually chose this limited world, this three-dimensionality, this separation, limitation, like forgetfulness, like the yin and the yang, and like this like polarity on purpose because I have experienced the more so many times. So I've fallen in love with this like three-dimensionality. I'm beginning to fall in love with my own story, with my own expression of everything, with all of the experiences, all the decisions, all the choices I've made since I was a child up to this point, all the mistakes I've made, the I wish I could have made things differently, etc., etc. I've fallen into the newfound truth that the gift that I think is out there, me connecting with aliens and me speaking to the mantises and Andromedans and whatever else, and new consciousnesses and new like in intelligences, all are actually like designed to bring me back to myself, and specifically this version of self. Because what I'm realizing is, speaking of sound and like being muffled and like suppression and like what you beautifully like read earlier, is 3 weeks ago, I realized. So I went to like to Mexico. I've been to Mexico like 3 or 4 times, like since the beginning of the year, and I did Bufo, which is MEO, like 5-DMT, which is like the toad medicine, one of the strongest medicines like you can do. And this is my fifth time doing it in the past maybe 8 months, and I was terrified doing it every single time. When I say terrified, terrified, because I'm like, I don't want to get stuck into a state. But the most recent gentle like journey that I've been on, because like the shaman that I work with is super gentle. She's not one of those where she puts you in a state where you're like blow out of your mind. This was a very gentle to work with the medicine and allow yourself to go within. I realized literally after like the medicine like did its work, and like the medicine is like quite fast acting. It will last only for 30 minutes and then you're back to this reality. It doesn't last for a long time. I stood there for an hour crying. Literally my eyes are dripping with tears, realizing, because in that moment I had met my version of self, the little Tony that was born on this earth. And I realized that this little Tony has been buried under so many layers that society placed on my parents, schooling, education, my own stories, the war I've gone through, trauma, like the whole molestation I've been through, and every other thing that we like you could imagine. And I realized in that moment, I thought I knew myself, but I realized that I did not fully know myself. I know the identities that were placed on me, the masks that were placed on me, whether by my own self, whether I am conscious, I am unconsciously aware of it, caused by society, by parents, or like whatever it is. But that little meeting that I had with the raw Tony, that there was this blank canvas of creation. Like I met this little Tony that was just pure source, pure infiniteness, pure blank canvas of creation, that I have the right to draw my world in whichever way that I want to draw it. And with every stroke I make, I create my reality. I'm so dying to go back to him, to get to really know him. And that solidified the experience, this three-dimensionality, because in like spirituality, there's this whole aspect of like spiritual bypassing. I don't know what else, that you bypass these things. And I did do some bypassing as part of my like own awakening, now realizing that I was, but now I'm realizing the gift is us. The gift is this reality. The gift is the trauma, the pain, the suppression, the muffling, me being molested, me living through the war, me doing this, me stuttering has been the gift, because allowing the gift to be part of creation, allowing the gift to be truly creation, seeing the value in it and integrating it back into myself allows me to reconstruct myself as the whole image. Because every time I judge the piece of myself, mentors talk about this all the time. Every time we judge ourselves or an experience or a decision or even an expression of creation, like witnessing somebody else and we judging them, or like witnessing something about, I don't know, nature and judging that, hearing somebody else say something and judging that. Separation, separation, separation. You're breaking a piece off of you and placing a distance, because somehow we were conditioned, unless you do this, or what is of value looks like this and what is of no value looks like that. On the spectrum of judgment, for example, like we have neutrality, we have good and we have bad or evil or whatever, or we have you are enlightened and you are not enlightened, right? There's this whole spectrum. What I realized through the mantis is that in reality, that whole spectrum is creation. And in order for you to begin to see yourself as this totality, you gotta begin to see the value in every little ingredient piece of this whole long line that we call, um, um, what's the word I was using? Like the spectrum, right? But we've been told, oh, if you're happy, if you're successful, if you're educated, if you're, I don't know what else, if you're this, if you're that, if blah, 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 then you are ascending and oh, you're doing something right. But if you're depressed, if you're upset, if you were, I don't know, molested, if you're confused, if you're in a dark space, if you're not successful, whatever that means, that's an illusion. If you're not educated, whatever that means, that's an illusion. If you're not this, then you must be broken, then you're not doing something right, and you're not on the light of on the path of enlightenment. That's the other thing within the spiritual world. We began to fall into this like fallacy that, ascension looks one way and this is not ascension, when in reality this is also ascension. This
I
is
love
part
I'm
of the
sorry. I was
infinite.
just going to say, I love that you're speaking about that because, the truth of the matter is we've all come here to experience the opposite of that which we already are. And by learning to embrace it, there is such a gift in that. So thank you for bringing that forward.
Of course, no problem. And these are all like learnings and teachings that I received like from them. But literally, as you said that, a lot of the audience and people that are going to hear this, they're going to hear it intellectually. Very different when you embody what you just said. That's the very different vibration, very different frequency. And that's where unconditional love comes in. That's where the glue of creation comes in. The cohesiveness, the bringing back of the pieces of who you are really comes in. When you go back to the moment, so the praying mantis beings and like they may speak like about this like when they channel or like when I channel, they've been talking about having like a life review of your life where you go back, like you sit down for an hour, half an hour, 20 minutes, and allow memories to surface. It's not about the right and like the wrong memory, because all of them are like part of creation. Allow memories to surface of you where you judge yourself. Whether you were a child at school, you like looked yourself in the mirror, you didn't like what you saw. I don't know. I was fat. I was a fat boy when I was a kid. Whatever. At school, like you got, or like your teacher said, "Oh, B," or like you got a B on the test, you should get an A. Like all these judgments, or even if you witness others, from a child up to this age, whichever memories want to like surface up, where you acted in judgment, or you witnessed, like there's a judging aspect of you. Go back to that version of you, like they say, and look at that child or that version of you and talk to it. Tell it specifically, they say, that the way that it acted, the judgment, the state of judgment it was in perfect design. That even choosing the act of judgment and separating yourself to begin allowing that version of you to see it as part of creation. And they say, bring it back on the table of creation, this massive table, because there are so many seats that are empty of yourself, where that seat can only be filled by each of those parts of you. So you bring that version of you and say, this seat has been always here for you. And you bring it back to the seat of creation, letting it know with unconditional love that the way that it was, the way that it thought, the act of judgment that it did was perfect in design. Allowing itself to experience what the infinite is. Because how else, they say, can we experience our infiniteness if we don't, and I'm getting chills, and look at my hair, if we don't experience every part of the infinity. And that moment of creation where you judge somebody else is creation. So when we begin to do that and bring those pieces that we place so much distance, and we're like denying that part of us, we're like shunning that part, we're burying that part of us, you bring it back and literally face it and tell it, you are creation. Whatever you did was however awful it may seem, that society said that's all illusions. There's no awfulness, there's no good, there's no bad within the eyes of creation. Creation sees every experience as expansion. So when you do that, you bring those pieces back and we begin to see ourselves as the whole image. Because right now we see ourselves with holes in us. There are holes in us instead of, amazing, profound things that, and even as I like say that, I want to remind you, go beyond the intellect, don't act out, because we've been so trained what love looks like. Oh, if I go give money to somebody, if I go give money to the homeless, or if I don't know, if I hug somebody today and yes, it's an act of love. We can act it out easily, but embodying that unconditional love for that experience is a very different thing. I was so conditioned, if you see like a homeless guy or or a being, we're all conditioned, give money and like give food. And then oftentimes they say, oh, don't give money because they may use it for drugs, give food, be discerning, right? But we also have been taught to see the experience of homelessness, like for example, as disempowering. That, oh, like that being is homeless. Oh, like we wish he had a job or had money. And why do they choose to do that, right? There's a disempowerment aspect that's embedded within us to view them as that. What the mantis beings have showed me through consciousness when I was channeling to this person is, they said, imagine, like for a moment, you beginning to witness that homeless person with empowerment, Begin to view them as this powerful soul that has consciously chosen to come to earth to live, and I'm getting chills again, this, what seems to be this limited, disempowered life, to allow itself as a being to expand through that experience. We're going to stop here. That alone, recognizing that what I see through the illusion of limitation and forgetfulness, what was once a disempowered homeless person on the street, doesn't have a job, doesn't have food, blah, blah, blah. Now I begin to witness that as a light being that is so powerful, even more powerful than me, that has chosen that life, specifically for it, for him, for her, to experience itself as the infinite through that experience. But yet, now I am viewing them with empowerment. The energy I'm giving them, and my chills are literally, my hair is like super bushy now. Now I'm witnessing that being with empowerment, remembering within my soul them being the light power, the choice that they made as a powerful being. That will activate the remembrance within them of who they are, and they will fall out of the forgetfulness, right? But also through their choice of not remembering who they are, through their choice as a powerful being to choose that, allowed me to experience what seems to be a disempowered state, to open up my heart even further, to be able to experience unconditional love to a deeper degree. Because from the act of, from the understanding beyond the intellect of what infiniteness is, when you begin to understand infinity has no bounds and it continues on going and going and going forever, you begin to realize that the act of love and the beingness of unconditional love also has no bounds and has layers and layers and depth and depth and depth and power of one unconditional love. Through that, it literally broke the paradigm in my mind of my own, the way I've used to live my life, disempowering everyone, around me. Even the act of war, which is so visceral and triggering for people. I had one person when I was in Las Vegas. It was my first event live, Disclosure Fest 2024. I was on stage and this guy asked, well, what do you think about, or what do the mantis, or he was asking the mantises, right? Because this was recorded and I had to re-listen to remember what they said. He asked them about war, specifically children dying. If the beings were so unconditionally loving, how can we begin to see the act of war and children dying with an unconditional view? And they beautifully came in and said something similar to the homelessness, that because we live in this forgetfulness and with this separation and disempowerment of others, because we chose to see others as disempowered beings and not as light, infinite beings, we experience a reality of such. We experience an expression of disempowerment, the perpetrator and the victim, and the drama between them. And as a witness to that, we experience all of that. But they said, remember, when you begin to realize that you are an infinite being, listen to what I say. When you begin to realize you are an infinite being, when you begin to comprehend beyond the intellect that you are an infinite being, you begin to understand viscerally there is no death. So the act of war and people dying, children dying, perpetrating, killing each other, when you realize there is no death, what is this act of war to begin with? What is this display attempting to show me? This act on stage of creation. They said, when you begin to remember that each and every one of you, plants, rivers, rocks, planets, the wind, the moon, humans, rabbit, insects, everything outside of you that seems to be exterior of you, as ascended masters, as light beings, simply experiencing themselves from that aspect of creation. When you begin to see everyone as a light being, the perpetrator and the victim, kids or the parents, or women dying through wars, or the people, Hitler and all these other light beings that chose to play that role. Again, imagine for a moment how powerful a being should be to come to this earth and begin to play out this role of being the perpetrator or of being the victim. Those are masterful ascended souls to have consciously chosen to do that. So when you begin to realize there is no death, And this act of war, there is no like killing to begin with. It's just the unmasking of, like, a costume. You're putting on this costume of humanity to live, to play out that role. You're on a stage of creation. And when you begin to witness what once seems to be me killing you, now as each of those beings are powerful masters playing out the role, so each of them can experience that role specifically. And the co-creation between them is also an intelligence, like consciousness, allowing source itself to understand itself as the more, and us as the witnesses of such a war to begin to see through the separation, through the like forgetfulness, the act of killing as breaking my heart, allowing our hearts are broken to allow us to break through the shell, to enter deeper and deeper and deeper into the unconditionality of love and compassion. So through that lens, through that vision of forgetfulness, we are digging deeper into what unconditional love is, and compassion, etc., etc. So when you begin to comprehend what happens in our world that has been defined as bad and wrong and shouldn't, and da 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 da, from a very different lens, your whole world changes. You begin to go back and witness what was once one paradigm, one reality, one storyline. Now you're seeing the gifts within those stories. Now you're seeing beyond the veil of illusion. You begin to remember what a beautiful world we live in. Recently, when I was in LA, the mantis beings also on stage, like one person asked, I forget about what they asked, and like they told them, imagine walking out your door today or like tomorrow morning, beginning to realize everything outside of you, again, every consciousness, the rivers, the wind, the building, the tire on a car, the car itself, humans, insects, da 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 da, everything we see outside of everything. And when I say everything, I know in the minds of the audience and people, they are defining everything as what they think everything is. I mean everything. Every physical thing you can experience outside of you, they say, are ascended masters holding mirrors, literally, back to you, to show you what you cannot see within yourself. Listen for a moment. Imagine going out and receiving the gift, realizing that I am surrounded by ascended masters holding mirrors back to me, helping me, Tony Ghazi, or you, to see, to reflect back to me where I'm unable to see within myself. What a beautiful world of magic. Like, we are so abundant that we gifted ourselves these ascended masters holding mirrors to show us what's inside of us. When you begin to see the world from that perspective, you begin to uncover the gifts that have always been in front of us. But when we forget and begin to experience the outside world as separate than us and not as part of us, we are not receiving the gifts. We're receiving a different set of gifts that are part of expansion. And even through this act of separation and forgetfulness is expansion. And that's how you begin to value your life, your experience, what you are witnessing, the lenses that you are putting in front of your face, in front of your energy, to begin to experience the infinite. Because how else, again, are you going to begin to realize you are the infinite if you do not experience everything that infinity has to offer? I mean, profound experiences of just magic and of value. We have been so trained to devalue everything, and unless it looks like this, then it's not a value, when everything is a value. And that's unconditional love. That is integration. That is oneness. That is remembering that you are God. That is remembering that there is God in everything that I see. When we hear the expression in spirituality that that God is everywhere, God is literally everywhere. Everything we see is of God material. And the only reason we experience like solidity, the only reason we experience like density, the only reason we experience like the the separation and our world, the way that we think we experience it, is because of the limited belief systems that we have. But when you begin to unlock those and begin to live a life of unlimitedness, you begin to witness the interconnectedness of everything and this beautiful display of creation. Everything is creation. Listen to the words. Everything is creation of the Creator. Even the act of wars of Creator. The act of dying. The act of being raped. The act of being like molested. The act of like killing. A lot of triggering topics they talk about. They are creation. You are creating an illusion of such to be able to experience the infinite. But when you really comprehend, I am an infinite being, when you really comprehend, I am energy and I never die, and I'm just playing out these roles to experience the all, you begin to laugh. It's like a comical thing to experience the other side. Do you know what I mean? But it takes some restructuring, it takes some absorbing of such information because it is visceral, it is, and in contrast to what we see through that limited lens. But these are the topics, these are the experience, and I mean, I can go even beyond, like images, mantises like showed me, or the beings that I connect with, the collective of, with like clients of expressions of creation that, I mean, I've seen colors, I've seen beings that are made out of crystals, I've experienced a planetary body as consciousness, as its own being, the same way that I can see myself as a human, as a male, as a gay male, as Lebanese, as whatever. I was able to experience a world, a planet, as conscious and intelligent being, like crazy stuff beyond this world. So you begin to unlock this heavenly world within us that is of magic. I mean, it's just so, I'm hoping you're able, I'm sure you feel the energy, I'm sure you feel the passion and the excitement of like what I'm saying beyond the word, because it just literally deconstructs what once we knew the world is or taught, and begin to remember whom we actually are as these beautiful co-creations of the all. And it's just in the more you fall into that knowingness, the more you want to get to know thyself even more. And
Yeah,
thyself, yeah.
Tony, beautifully said. And this is what I believe we need here on Earth right now. And this is what my higher dimensional beings are bringing through as well. And so for those that are still maybe not really understanding this in an embodied way, because we do have so much polarization and judgment of these different aspects of politics, of religion, of the war. I mean, how can people start wrapping their minds and their bodies, their souls around these concepts from your perspective?
Look, thank you for asking that question, because that was posed a few times in the past, like few months. Last year, I resisted to share any of this information because I'm like, I don't know if humanity can like receive, like not that you couldn't receive it, but in my mind, I disempowered the world, right? I'm like, and I was afraid to trigger people. Like, I mean, I was terrified to hurt people's feelings, or they think I'm freaking crazy, or I'm delusional, or whatever. Like the ego like came in, and I'm like, I don't want the message and what I experienced not to be, because once you feel it, it's like, oh my God, you want to gift it, you want everybody to feel it, right? It's like, oh my God, once you get to that understanding and realization, is so beautiful, it's so freeing from the matrix. We hear a lot about the matrix. So I resisted last year, but then I fell into my own knowingness, and like they came in, they said, your job is not to convince anyone of anything, your job is to simply profess and share with the world what you experience, and that's it. That's all. With courage, like in a sense, share that, and people will activate and remember, and will go on their path to receive what they need to receive, and they'll awaken on their own path through their own free will choice. But the easy way, or the most like simplest way to like digest such a infinite topic that's for the matrix mind, is just what the hell do you mean? We can use all kinds of other creative words. Is really self-love, to begin with self. Because if I'm unable to understand the infinite, if I'm unable to understand others or see light in others, because we've been so conditioned to see like separation, we know ourselves to a point. We're the most intimate with self. I'm the most intimate with my own mind. In my own time, I hear my thoughts, da 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 da. Self-love is the gateway to begin to see love in others. Because truly, how else are you going to be able to experience or see or witness or perceive unconditional love in others if you do not know yourself, what unconditional love is toward self? And that in itself is an infinite journey. But you don't need to reach the infinite, because it's unreachable, to be able to rise up in a sense in that stretch of imagination and in consciousness. But this is where the life review really comes in, to go back to your life and witness all of the moments where you judged yourself or hated yourself or whatever. I mean, judge is one expression of a lot of little words we could use to that. Or I wish I did something differently. And go back and see that as creation. Like, comprehend yourself as a creator. Like, you are Jesus, you are Mother Mary, you are saints, you are Buddha, you are Krishna, you are all those deities. Those are all labels for the same energy. And oftentimes it takes a lot of deconstruction of the old paradigm to even say I'm God, I'm Jesus. I get so many messages like online, even while driving in car, because I have the thing on my car that says I talk to aliens or whatever. I get people driving in the car honking, making me stop. They hold the Bible. I swear to God, this happened 3 times like a few months ago. Hold the Bible. Believe in Jesus, and I roll down the window. I'm like, Jesus is in my heart. I am Jesus. Say, no, you're not. Jesus is up there. Like they use the arm to say he's somewhere separate than me, right? Even that, in a very simple, everybody knows Jesus, da da da. Even when I tell them I'm Jesus, he's within my heart, they don't understand what that is, because there is that act of separation. So the unconditionality of love and beginning to honor yourself, love yourself, value yourself is the first step. And it takes a lot. In a sense, it doesn't have to be a long journey to reach that. But in the beginning, you're digging, and you're digging, because we've been so conditioned to hate ourselves, not to love ourselves. The media, like, marketing, TV, you have to look like this or be like this, or have this education or live here, or I don't know what else, and da da da, and success should look this way. Disempower. So many layers of disempowerment. We feel like this when we are all of it. So when you begin to recognize, and it doesn't have to be, you have to emanate the unconditionality of self-love, but when you begin to recognize within yourself aspects of unconditional love, all you need is one example with thyself, where once you judged and hated and didn't like and wished it was different. One example. When you begin to shift that mindset and be able to witness a little bit, even an inkling of love, that will begin the rotation of unconditional love, like within self. And little by little by little, literally it will expand, because unconditional love energy is so integrative, it will expand at a higher rate your mind cannot even comprehend. That you don't need a 12-step program to begin loving yourself. It takes one tiny example where you once hated yourself to begin to see the love within what that is, that will literally unfold and unravel everything else, to begin to see yourself as the beautiful being that you are. And when you begin to witness yourself as beauty, you then are having the lens of unconditional love to see others, and you begin to appreciate everything else. Was that helpful? Yes.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I have a question.
Yeah.
So many times when people think of the mantis beings, they first drop into fear, or they think of them as healers, or whatever else they think of. But as you bring this through, they're all about unconditional love. They're about, the evolution of our spiritual development. Are there other ways that they're coming through right now and kind of, working with humanity to help us as we're moving through these volatile times, taking us into these beautiful ascension processes?
Look, when I ran out of that, and I say ran out because literally I was running out, like screaming in my mind, I connect to the menses. That's first time, like when I had my hypnotherapy, when I had that visceral connection. At that point, I mean, I don't think a lot of people connected to the mantis beings. Like, there were a few people across the globe that like said they did, but I went deep into saying I connect with them. Like, I was very clear on what my connection is, and I didn't know if people did. I had no idea what like they were gonna think. But through all these events, I've been through all the channel sessions. I cannot tell you how many people came up to me and literally said, I dreamt of a praying mantis being. I've lived in Arizona for for like 50 years or whatever, and I've never seen a praying mantis. All of a sudden, there's a praying, like, or had expressions, or had this. It was hundreds of people, if not thousands, that began to speak out and say, "I have a connection with them," and and like they were seeking for guidance on what those connections meant. So yes, they are working like through them, and it takes a person like me or other people to put out the idea that there is such a connection with a like beings called mantis, to allow others to begin to see that, wow, I've also had that, and they've always been my guide, right? So they are assisting humanity in so many ways. I mean, in like the 3D physical, they don't necessarily like get involved. They are observers. They don't want to mess with the free will choice. They work on energies more than like physical, like with people. I mean, like through the channel sessions, I've seen so much that happened through my personal ones, and I'm sure all of the other ones that channel the mantis beings have had like those activations. But they also work with other beings beyond humans. And those beings are working with humans. So through the like liaisonship, if that's even a word, and I make up words, by the way, guys, that's part of being a creator, as I make up my things. Through the liaisonship of other beings, they infuse their energy through them. So there's always like praying mantis overhold, in a sense, or overviewer, if that's even a word, that's always like embedded. But truly, 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 the way that they work is just to remind you that the wisdom is within you. It is within your heart, and they're not going to alter your path, because they understand your path is of value. They're just there to help give you that spark to remember a little more, for you to make a conscious decision on your path, realizing whom you are. Does that make sense? And was that helpful?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. So I can't believe the hour is just come and gone so quickly. So as we begin to bring this hour to a close, I know you talk so much about unconditional love. Is there another message intertwined with that you would like to share with people?
Fear. We have been so conditioned to run away from fear. We have been so conditioned to, as creators, to create more of fear scenarios. Fear is a gateway of release. Fear literally is like the last hurrah to freedom. And it's the most beautiful messenger we could ever have. The most beautiful and clearest messenger. Because oftentimes we can have messages from praying mantis beings or Andromedans or Mother Mary or Jesus, all these beautiful beings of creation right in front of us, and we don't see them. Because to us, somehow, they're not clear messages. But fear itself, when you are terrified, when you are terrorized, we all understand what fear looks like in the many layers and dimensions and facets and shades that it comes in. As clear as it is, we have not been conditioned to see it as an ascended master, literally that close in micro inch to allow us into the freedom that we seek. It is the clearest ascended master we could ever have, to allow us to break through the illusion of, to jump into the freedom of beingness, of the infinite that we are. So the next time you experience any idea of fear, whether you're afraid to tell your boss something, whether you're afraid to tell your husband something, whether you're afraid, I don't know, you're afraid of heights, you're afraid to be on an elevator, you're afraid of insects like I used to be, you're afraid of a cockroach, you're afraid of certain experience, like viscerally, or you're afraid, I don't know, to share your thoughts, you're afraid to channel publicly, there's all shades of fear. The next time, begin to reconstruct the idea of fear as literally the key that you need to use to unlock that door for you to step in to your full infinite beauty and power. Because that level of fear, as afraid as sometimes we are, and we all know that how that fear could be debilitating and overpowering. Imagine the power on the other side the moment you like let go of it. The moment you surrender into that fear, it will literally show you the drop, in a sense, the gateway, the wormhole into absolute freedom of being the creator. As intense and powerful the experience could feel as fear, on the other side of the coin, that's how much power you're going to begin to remember you are, and the freedom that you have as a creator. So it is the clearest messenger we can ever have, literally to allow us to be free out of the matrix. But we've been so taught not to go there. We've been so taught not to even get to know what fear is. Because the truth is, when you surrender into the act of fear, you realize that energy of what you thought was fear was creatorship energy to begin with. And fear itself was simply a costume on top of that beautiful orb of energy that is creation. Like, begin to view the act of fear as this orb, literally during Halloween, having a costume trying to scare you. And take off that mask. And what you see is this orb, this beautiful planetary body of energy that is you, where freedom lies, where stuttering doesn't reside, where suppression isn't there, where the choking of who you are isn't there, where creation is, where magic, magnificence, everything is there. Like, I can go deeper and deeper and deeper, but I just have the feeling I'm going to stop here just before it gets quite intense. Redefine. Everything is being energy, simply cloaked by a label. And that label is an illusion of an experience. And the more you begin to unmasking all of these labels, whatever it is, fear, confusion, sadness, happiness, whatever, whether it's on the spectrum of good and beautiful and whatever, or on the spectrum of depression and dark and evil or whatever, all of these are masks. Under those masks is one energy, and it's the creator that you are. And that's it. That's it. But it takes full surrender into that to be able to recognize that energy beyond that mask. And you recognize that is more of you. Those are all the parts of who you are. And I'm going to mention one more thing. Should you be stuck in a cycle, right? Like we hear the karmic cycle. Oh, I'm reliving this life again. Like, what's karma? What's this whole like cyclical thing? That's one grander idea of a smaller idea in this reality of I'm still in lack, or I'm still in poverty, or I'm still in disempowerment, or I'm still in disease, and this whole thing. That will keep circling and circling and circling. What the mantises have said through like a few like channeled messages is that energy that continues to occur over and over again is knocking on your door, saying, knock, knock, knock. Hey, I'm here. I'm part of you. Let's say like lack, the idea of lack, which a lot of humanity like goes through, of not having money or being successful, whatever it is. Knock, knock, knock. I'm here. You shut the door. Nope, you're not me. You shut the door. That lack comes back. Knock, knock, knock. I'm here. I'm part of you. Nope, you're not part of me. Shut the door. It comes back. That energy will keep knocking on your door until you face it fully and realize that even the idea of lack, the creation of what is called lack, is me. And receive it fully as part of creation, because we have been so conditioned. If you're poor, if you're lack, if you're diseased, if you're this, if you're uneducated, if you don't live here, I don't know what else, if you don't speak fluently, blah, 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 you're not whole. So we've been taught to keep pushing it away. That's why it keeps happening, because the moment you open that door and you face that lack and you say, thank you, lack, for showing me what the infinite is, that through the act of being a lackful being, I experience what the infinite is, and I recognize you as me, because I am also lack and I am success. Bring it back to that table of creation and give it a seat. Tell it you belong here with unconditional love. When you receive it in, that being that kept circling over and over and over again, and I'm getting chills right now, knocking on your door, telling you, I'm part of you, I'm part of you, and you're saying, nope, 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 you're not, will never knock again, ever. Because you have integrated as part of you, because you have uncovered that mask, that label, in which you realize that active lack was simply an illusion to allow you to experience what a creation of lack means when internally it was of your creation to begin with.
Beautiful. Yeah, Tony, thank you so much for that.
Thank
I
you.
I absolutely loved it. People, you have to go back and watch this and rewatch this and rewatch this and rewatch this and allow these messages to truly seep in to who we are, because everything that you brought forward is what humanity needs to hear at this time. So thank you so much, Tony, for being here. I sincerely appreciate it. Lisa, thank you for being here. Do you have any final closing words?
I do. I just have a final plug for Tony, and all the messages he shared today are exactly, again, what my higher dimensional beings are bringing through as well, and others of us. And for those of you who don't know, Tony has a whole collection of crystal mantis skulls he has created. So we have these guys, and then, so I'm a collector. I have a whole
Yes.
I love his skulls, and the
Thank you.
frequency that comes through these are amazing. So anyway, and I met Tony at his first speaking conference, Disclosure Fest, November of 2023. And we fell in love with each other. So
Totally. Immediately. It was love at first sight.
yeah.
Um, and just one last parting message. If like you don't mind, because the beings are saying, and here comes the stuttering, oftentimes we always want to connect with the beyond, with all kinds of aliens, and when our spaceships are gonna land, when are we gonna have contact, da 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 da. Until you begin to embody unconditional love for self, to truly love thyself fully, that is truly the moment. And of course, as like humanity, that's when truly is the moment where all those beings will literally surface on this planet as physical or energy or like whatever it is. Because how else are we going to be able to unconditionally love them if we cannot unconditionally love beings that look like us? If we still don't like each other or judge each other, we're humans, we look like each other. You're telling the beings that don't resemble like you, insectoid beings, energy beings, I don't know what else, also with different frequencies and vibration, that if you land on earth, I'm gonna run to you and give you a hug. Intellectually, that's a beautiful story. Like viscerally and in reality, that's not what's they fully comprehend that even as humanity looks like each other, vibrates on the same vibration, you still aren't able to co-create with unconditionality of love. They fully comprehend our intellect of what that means. So the moment, if you want to connect with other beings and have access to all, which we all do, begin to self-love yourself. Begin there. Because once you emanate on that frequency, you will receive them. They will fully know that you have access to the glue of creation.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you so much again.
Thank you.
Lisa, thank you. Thanks to everyone who's here with us, that's live, who's watching us. Whether or not you're watching us live, the words and the energy that has come through tonight is still going to resonate right here in the heart. So until we're all back together again, much love to all of you and namaste. Have a beautiful week, everyone.
Thank you,
Much
guys.
love.
Thank
Thanks.
you, Lisa.
You.
Bye bye.
Thank you, Shelly. Bye, everyone.